Well, good morning, everyone. How are you guys? It's Thursday morning. Welcome back to our trading room. Let me just get you my monitor here. The market took a little bit of a hop just before the open. And started pressing higher before the opening bell. Well, there they go. So somebody got a jump on the market this morning. All right, let's take a look here. What's been going on in the overnight? Well, let's go here to our Eagle. So you can see we're trading left off yesterday. Not much in the Asian session, a little bit of a run up during the European session. We did get a test of the extreme here and a failure. Here was our first with trend signal, which came about an hour before this morning's open. And here's the signal that tripped just before the opening bell. This is going to look a little bit like an opening gap to traders down here. We have a gap down here now off the open. So we'll see with whether or not traders try to get inside that gap. I have to warn you, I hardly slept a wink last night. It was a very uneasy night, so if you're following my trades, I'll do my best, but my head's a little thick this morning. I made the mistake of doing some work on the computer last night. We were at one of these websites where you can order glasses, and we've ordered glasses from this service before, and they're very good, very efficient, but it's true you shouldn't use electronics like computers before you're going to bed because it just messes up your mind. I don't know, it keeps you awake or something. Okay, it looks like that early run up is now starting to fade. Crude oil tailing off a little bit. I missed a crude oil trade here, but we should get another opportunity. This wasn't the most inviting looking signal because our trend line went out of sync here. You could have still treated it as an early trend change signal. As it happens, it worked out, but when that was forming at the time, it wasn't quite so clear. We're just above the primary resistance on our support and resistance suite, and then we come back with a sell signal, and our filter not in sync yet, but there it is, and there's the nice little decline. Soybeans a little bit sideways today, as they have been for the last little while. So soybeans giving us this kind of look, if you're following the grains. They're very happy to be trading where they are. Could be a difficult market until they get outside that range. I might snoop around, see what's going on in some of the other markets. Maybe we can pick up something else. Nuts. While I was looking at the other charts, we got a nice macro pullback signal here. And you can see it had the nice little bull flag type shape to it, and there they go. I was holding out for that too. Oh well, spilt milk. Can't do much about it now. Get back into our time machine and looking here at the British pound on the Falcon. A lot of sideways action going on here too. The pound has been on a tear to the upside the last week. This is actually the weakest the pound has looked for a while. If they turn here and come up short of this trend line, we might actually see the end of the uptrend, at least for the moment. So nothing tradable in the pound at the moment. So you can see here the NQ following this channel very well. A little bit of a spike down there in the selling. Wonder if those could be some profit-taking orders. We'll see how they respond from here. Because all these folks that bought down here on this rally up, don't kid yourselves, they see this channel also. And a lot of them might be thinking, hey, this would be a good time to take some profit. That could account for that selling spike. right, let's see what else we have going on. Not much, just flipping through a few markets here, and there's still a whole lot of sideways trading going on. Here's the Australian dollar on the hawk. They had a nice rally through what would have been, well, the Australian session was kind of around here. London Open, big rally up, and now they're kind of happy just to be going sideways, so nothing of interest there either. Guess we might as well just put soybeans back up. All right, well, this is an interesting little setup that we have now. We've got a 4-arrow consolidation building here in the hawk. The problem, of course, are these highs right here. So we've got 1, 2, 3 arrows. We know the 4-arrow consolidation is a strong signal. However, if I take it here on the hash mark, and let's say I cover it down here, you can see that if I wanted to enter above the high, I'm pretty much giving up my whole profit objective before I even gain entry. And yet that's the better play. Maybe what I'll do right now is I'll set up, because it's a little bit easier, is to sell the failure of the macro pullback. Now this is a lot riskier. This is a counter trend trade, obviously. And what I'll do is I will sell the failure of the signal, cover the highs, and see if we can't have a runner. So this is now our 4-arrow consolidation. Like I said, this is a high probability signal. But I'm a little bit concerned about the highs. I don't want to delay my entry until we get to the highs because, well, that would be my whole profit objective. Let's see what's going on in the other tools. Yeah, well, there they go. So I should have stayed with the signal. There's the old counter trend problem. Had I manned up and took the trade with trend. Just curious here now. See, I told you I was tired. If I had taken it above the high, have we hit the profit objective yet? Yes, we have. Well, at least the signal didn't add insult to injury by bringing me into the trade first before heading higher. Oh, and there they go. All right, well, not much I can do about it now, is there? It's interesting here. We have overshot our trend line a little bit. That could actually be a sign of weakness. See all the buy orders that were filled here on the Geiger counter? That could be some stop running. Load up on buyers before the market heads the other direction. I'll try not to do the counter trend stuff too much more today. But that was a little unfortunate. Yeah, the NQ, they're holding their own. Wow. That is one market you don't want to short. It's crazy strong. had a nice trend line touch here also, which came about the same time at that macro pullback signal right there. Waiting for another chance to get into crude oil. They're not giving me one just yet. And they're rather slow about it. So I guess your best chance in crude, this was also pre-market. This first micro-macro cross here. About 5 minutes before crude oil's open. We got that first micro-macro cross signal. And they've been slipping lower since. Now you might look at this and say, well, Eric, that's not a first micro-macro cross. The line's never crossed. Remember, the whole thing with the first micro-macro cross is that the signal goes out of sync and then comes back into sync. So our bars were out of sync, our trend lines were out of sync, our filter went out of sync, and then everything comes back into sync. That's just as strong as if it had happened right here. Now my problem is trying to find a decent place to buy back in. I don't want to be the guy who bought the high, although it wouldn't be the first time. So we're getting our signal right here. You can see we had one signal print already. We could use this little swing here as an entry to pick up the second push on the market. You can see we're getting another warning dot. You could enter above the highs. Currently, this isn't it doesn't meet any of the requirements of our high probability signals. It's neither a first micro-macro cross or a 4-arrow consolidation or anything like that. So don't feel like you have to jump on board. But the way the NQ has been going, it's almost like just buy it and hold on. Of course, you need to run your stops deep enough. That quick little run up, and now they've put the brakes on. Da 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 da. This is like yesterday, except for the early run up, of course. We're stuck here watching the paint dry. All right, what have we got going on here? Almost working into another 4-arrow consolidation. Oh, way to go, Mark. Nicely job. Mark says he took that NASDAQ 4-arrow consolidation at 44.94 quarter, added a runner at 45.02, total profit after runner $305. Technically two trades low end of my profit target, but profitable nonetheless. Way to go, Mark. Well done. Manually chasing a jump up like that is what I think I would miss in a black box system. That's the thing with black boxes. It's like Adam said the other day in the public trading room. Your mind is just so much more sophisticated than any computer. I know there's a lot of talk about artificial intelligence and so on and so forth. I'm not sure I'm ever going to see it in my lifetime. Thanks, Phil. Phil says the Philly Fed is out at the top of the hour, so that news is being disseminated right now. That could account for the pause. Okay, here we have another 4-arrow consolidation, but I'm not sure I would take I'm not sure I would take this on the hash mark. That's what I just said down here before the market exploded higher. But as it is, this to have two 4-arrow consolidations develop this quickly, that could be a little problematic. 4-arrow consolidations like macro pullbacks are not things that we see develop very often within a trend. They are a natural part of the trend, but I guess what I'm trying to say is we don't get macro pullback, macro pullback, macro pullback occurring all the time. The more we get the macro pullback occurring, the less likely the market strength is going to continue. Same thing with 4-arrow consolidations. If we see too many 4-arrow consolidations, then it's suggestive that the market does not have the momentum it had earlier. And now that I've said that, we'll see this thing take off like a shot and go to 45.10. Jim says, good morning, Eric. The advanced decline is up to around 1400. We've got 2102 to the positive and 672 to the negative. But he says, I think you already know that. Yeah, that's not hard to tell that the advanced decline is quite bullish today. All right, let's park that there. Michelle says there might be something going on crude oil. So let's take a look here at the crude oil market. Well, we have done a significant retracement in crude. Maybe more importantly, did we get a failure or a breach down here? That overshoot, that's very interesting. Let's see how far that is off of the parallel. No, actually it follows it pretty well. Okay, so why is that important? Well, if we see markets starting to overshoot trend lines, this would actually be a sign of strength. You would think that it would be a sign of weakness, that the sellers are especially strong, only if they shallow up here and come up short. Otherwise, if you wanted to, this is a little bit more aggressive, but we do have a green bar sell, which we could buy the failure of. So rather than wait for the first micro macro cross, we could buy it. But here's the problem with crude oil, of course, it's so insanely expensive that the only way to pull it off would be to take the chance, place your range or your order inside the range here. Now, of course, we still have this trend line to deal with. This is not the best looking trades. We don't have a test of the extreme. There's a lot of things going on here that are making this a less than ideal trade. But if you're inclined, a failure of the green bar sell could be bought. We'll see. Ideally, what I want to see here now is a break above this end of the trading channel. That would confirm what I saw down here, that this overshoot is actually a sign of strength. Getting above the top end of the trading channel now, and a retest should set us up for possible buy. Okay, so now we've broken the top end of the channel. That confirms our sign of strength. Now we're going to look for a retest. We should get a first micro macro cross along with that. Falcon a little bit ahead of the game. Here's the Falcon on crude oil. So we had our trend change signal. Trend line changes color. Here's the up, here's the down, here's the up. And you could be working a signal something like that. Well done, Michelle. Good call. Oh dear. It did too. Okay. Oh well. So there's another 4-arrow consolidation. Another rally. Oh, Eric. See, Mom was right. You need your sleep. Well, me in particular. my wife will be the first to tell you that. I need my sleep. Oh, nuts. All right, so if I drew a channel there, yeah, there. Oh, now we have something a little bit more resembling an overshoot. All right, we'll see how that plays out. But a couple of great opportunities to get long on the NQ this morning. I'm glad at least Mark was able to pick up on one of them. Yeah, here's a very good observation from Mark. Mark says, just a little correction with his entry and exit figures. But what Mark says, if you're patient and lay in wait for the high probability only signals, DTS is on it. Over trading is where I make all my mistakes, and that is so true. That is so true. Over trading really is a killer. So here we go with crude again. What we were watching, we got that little bit of a bullish breakout. And our first micro macro cross signal as we anticipated. Crude still in a little bit of a downtrend overall, however, so we need to be careful about how aggressive we want to get to the buy side. I suppose buying above the highs is relatively safe. Well, relatively safe. It's crude oil. Still haven't seen a test of the extreme here. That's bothersome. Here's crude oil now on the Eagle, and you can see longer term on the Eagle, we're actually looking kind of bullish, aren't we? So we had this run down, bottomed out a little bit. Now they're trying to push higher, but more recently we've had this little move here and giving us the appearance of maybe a bear flag. It's hard to say at the moment. We've got a lot of waffling going on the part of crude oil. And they seem to be respecting the bullish trend line pretty well also. So a lot of lines. I'd feel better buying crude at these levels if we had a test of the extreme. Once again here on the hawk. And of course, the deeper they drift, the more I can adjust my entry. If they get back, if they turn this into a macro pullback or get somewhere near the top end of this trading channel, maybe around 60.50, 60.60, I'd feel a little bit more comfortable putting in an order there. So let's cancel that for the moment and look for another opportunity, something that looks a little more sound. Here on the Eagle now on crude oil, look at this, we're getting a green bar sell. Technically the band has turned over, but just barely. Remember, we're not splitting hairs here. All right, working into a macro pullback. Do you ever get that paranoid feeling that the market's just waiting for you to buy so it can tank? Oh, well. Okay, crude oil giving us something resembling a test of the extreme now. And a macro pullback signal. So this looking a little bit more inviting, might be able to cover it below the swing in the macro line. They slipped us a tick on the fill. Problem is that we've got a bearish looking signal here on the eagle. So I'm trying the hawk first. And if the hawk trade doesn't work out well, actually I could set up to short the eagle also. So you don't normally see this. I like to see the signals more in sync with each other. But right now we're getting a little bit of a mixed bag. In the crude oil market. In fact, so much so that I'm not going to give this trade here any wiggle room. I'm going to jam it right up there. If it fails, then it fails. I'll take my lumps early and we'll look at shorting it. So there you go, buyers. You got to put up right now. That's all I'm going to give you. Now we have the same sort of adventure brewing here. Notice all the macro pullback lines. This is yet another macro pullback signal. We know that we normally only see two macro pullbacks within a trend. I'm not sure I would count this one separately because these two occurred at essentially the same price level. Okay, well, I'm too late to buy this one, but as I've mentioned before and as I hesitate to mention, you can sell the failure of any DTS signal, whether it be the macro pullback, whether it be the first macro cross, 4-arrow consolidation, whatever. But you can see the problem that I ran into this morning trying to sell the 4-arrow consolidation. The market went boom. And then when another one came up, it went boom again. So that's why I tell you, stay with the trend and with the signal. But for whatever reason, my brain's not working right today. And I've got counter trend-itis. I just can't help myself. I keep seeing the opposite of everything that's going on. Now, We're going to see probably the NASDAQ rally now to 45.20 off of this macro pullback, and I'm set up to short it again. All right, well, we'll throw the order in there. We'll see whether anything comes of the failure. This is why, again, you need to pay most attention to what DTS is telling you. You see, I put things like trend lines on here and so on. But again, at the end of the day, it always boils down to the same thing. Does it help you make a decision? And maybe more importantly, does it help you make a profitable decision? Mark says, yes, sleep deprivation will do that. I'm not really that bad, but it's just funny how I wrote an article, a blog post, I guess it's got to be about 6 months ago now, about, I think I called it Bringing Your A Game, and just the importance of the little things, or how the little things can have a big impact on your trading. And one of the things I pointed out was getting enough sleep, just as simple as that, having a clear head, being alert. Another thing was your personal life. If there's things going on in your personal life, don't trade. A friend of mine at the time was undergoing or going through a divorce, and as you can imagine, he was in no shape to trade. His trading was erratic at best. Now remember, the first or the macro pullback signal that we're seeing here, even though it hasn't, or I'll check it in a moment, I'm assuming it hasn't reached our high probability target just yet, doesn't mean that it won't, right? The macro pullback signal does have the luxury of pulling back a little bit more. If I were buying this, I would probably cover the trade to this support area around here, around 45.05, giving the trade a little bit more of a chance to reach its profit objective. If it didn't reach its profit objective there, it would have gotten pretty close. All right, here's our crude oil trade. So we got stopped out of our long position. We sold the green bar sell. We're doing not too bad. We hit our break-even trigger, and we can even look at perhaps getting a little bit more aggressive here. Where are the parabolics? Parabolics are still back there. See, we got slipped to the downside too. Maybe we'll go with the bar high-low. And here too, don't be shy about taking open profit. There's $130 sitting on the table. There's nothing wrong with grabbing that. We're not doing this just for the broker. All right, we're working our macro pullback failure ever so slightly. Like I said, it's another counter trend trade, very iffy. The only good thing about this, and I suppose I could have legged into it, is that we know if the market reverses and trades above the high, we're definitely on the wrong side of this signal. Crude took a little bit of a bounce off of our trend line, hit our break even. So we gave it a good try, but unfortunately, crude not cooperating at the moment. So they've dried up. Michelle asked a good question regarding the macro pullback. Michelle asked, Eric, are the macro line pullback signals on the hawk best to take when they occur within an established trend? Yes, they tend to occur after your first micro macro cross. So when I get a first micro macro cross signal, obviously that's one of our high probability signals. I go with that. The macro pullback signal, or the potential macro pullback signal, is the reason I don't take the second signal that trips, or even that signal. So here's our first micro macro cross. The market goes up, and here's our next signal. The reason I would not be interested in this signal is it has a very real potential of becoming a macro pullback or a 4-arrow consolidation. And you can see in this case it actually did become a macro pullback signal, after which prices continued higher. So you're normally going to be preceded by a first micro macro cross before you get the macro pullback signal. That's usually what happens. Let's see, here's another one, first micro macro cross. In fact, it goes a little bit sideways, and it combines a 4-arrow consolidation, a macro pullback, a first micro macro cross, all into one, all over the span of about an hour, hour and a half before it finally tripped. Here's another one. We get a first micro macro cross, and then a little while later we get the macro pullback. See if there was one to the downside. No, just the first micro macro cross. They never drifted high enough to give us a macro pullback. Crude might be coming back with another sell signal. The NASDAQ looks as though it's fallen dead flat. Jim says, looks like we might be basing for another push up. It's entirely possible. The NQ has made some pretty serious gains today. I'm surprised we haven't seen a little bit more profit taking so far. Patrick's asking, there's high volume on the DAX. Why would that be? Would that be to do with Greece? It's entirely possible. Hang on one second here. I'm going to see if I can do a little bit of research. Yeah, nothing really going on. Report-wise, natural gas inventory is out in about 15 minutes for Those of you watching the natural gas market, the DAX is pretty liquid anyways. Yeah, I did it again. Oh, all right, no more counter trend trades, I promise. Michelle says gold has run up. Big run up in gold today. Let's take a look at that. Just let the rest of the data load. All right. So we've got, yeah, there's quite a bit of range going on here in gold. Gold market opens around here in North American time. They seem to be respecting the support and resistance lines pretty well. Nothing tradable on the Falcon at the moment. Let's take a look here at the Hawk. Well, we'll see. If they come back here, it is possible we would get a first micro-macro cross buy signal. We had decent follow through on this first micro-macro cross and this one as well, but notice all the yellow bar clusters and how they're all forming around the same level. That's characteristic of a sideways market also. Perhaps the Eagle gives us the best look. Here's the London Open. Red bar buy down here during the end of the Asian session. The Asian session a lot of times seems to set the tone for the gold market. And yesterday certainly was not the exception. We get the hard edge bounce, the red bar buy. Great rally out of that. And here's the Raptor. They're looking rather slow at the moment. Which seems to be par for the course. Mark says on the NQ we've broken 4 out of the resistance lines on our support and resistance suite. We certainly have. So here's the primary resistance down here. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, we're into the 4th zone. Just broke out of zone number 4. We still have a few lines to go, but that's significant. That is a very strong market. Serves me right for trying to sell it. I won't do that again. Yeah. Jim says it's the 3rd push up. I sold my calls too soon. Yeah, go figure. So we actually did get a late filter entry signal here, which I missed also, but we'll just, oh, look at that. They hit that target too. All right, now I'm officially bummed out. Michelle asked, Eric, do you use the 24/5 setting on all your charts? Yes, I do. I used to have it set at 24/7. It really doesn't make that much of a difference. The only reason I went to 24/5 is because Ben, who is one of the programmers, recommended it. Well, the advanced decline is still crazy strong. Jim says it's up to, looks like it's about 1400 to the positive still. It's amazing that it's held that long without some sort of fluctuation. Well, let's see. Soybeans finally got outside of their trading range and are giving us a retest and a buy signal. This is on our Eagle. The buy signal is now in sync, so we could look at buying it, perhaps covering it below that most recent swing low, or you could buy it and perhaps cover it back to the hard edge, which leaves a few more dollars open, but does give you a little bit more staying power in case the market tries to retest this support once more. So who knows, I might find a trade yet. Wow, they just keep pressing. Well, I can't say I didn't have my opportunities this morning. Suncombe, I don't know, throwing a little salt on the wound, says, "Hi Eric, good morning. I joined late. How many millions did you make today? Looks to be a very trending day." Yes, you are absolutely correct. I don't know. I didn't. My head's not in the game today. Uh, Unfortunately, I missed every signal. I have no excuse. Well, I do have one excuse. One of the signals occurred pre-market, and the market started running. This one occurred just at the opening bell, but it's not like I didn't have several chances to get on board. Even late here, I had the late filter entry signal, and I just kind of got stuck looking the wrong way, I'm embarrassed to admit. Crude oil just putting in a trend change signal after a reasonable test of the extreme here on the Falcon. Doggone it, I missed that one too. This is not my morning. And we had a first micro macro cross signal here on the Hawk for crude oil. So we were watching the market overshot the trend line here, got more bullish, it came down. Actually, we tried to sell this on the Eagle, and then there was a little bit of a bounce, a green bar sell, the failure, and now there's the first micro macro cross. So crude oil definitely looking a little bit more bullish at the moment. Yeah, it's unfortunate. Today is a very good trading day, but like I said, not so much for me. Jim says, do we have a bear pendant forming? Not on the NQ. You might be looking at the YM. Hold on a second here. I will pull that up. No, I think that was earlier. Sorry. And yes. So Jim was kind of looking at, here we'll look at the Raptor. We haven't spent much time with the Raptor this morning. Bear pendant, no, I would have said a bull pendant, but I think maybe that's what you meant. Or a bull flag. Although you did say pendant, so let's take a look at the Eagle. Is there something bigger going on here? No, not on that. Let me get a time chart. Honestly, I've got snookered a couple times this morning looking for a counter trend trade that wasn't. Well, shows you it happens to the best of us. Not that I'm the best of us, but you get what I'm saying. So here's the NQ on a daily chart. And just look at that crazy range. So here's the problem I have with the NQ at the moment. It's stuck, right? It's very much range bound. I suppose there's every reason to believe it will back off of 45.50. If it breaks through, it will make it a little bit easier on us, because just like we always look for, if we see a breakout, we're going to look for that retest and another opportunity to buy. Once we get outside this trading range, it's going to be a little bit easier, but it's a little bit of a tough call right now. So crude oil almost making a full retracement from the earlier decline. So we almost have this type of thing going on here. Does look as though the buyers are in control of crude oil just for the time being. Oh well, it won't be the last time I miss a move. It's not the first, it won't be the last. I am amazed that the entire morning has advanced, the whole session. And that gives me serious pause about buying it further in the afternoon. I'm sure everybody would love to see some sort of pullback, and yet that always seems to be the time that the market just keeps on rallying. Look at our day ranger. Our ranges were all around 170 points, and we're up to 326 already. That's going to skew the averages a bit. Well, the soybean trade languishing a little. But now that we've broken out and retested, there's a good chance they're going to push up here a little bit. Whether they'll get there before the end of the session, it remains to be seen, because you can see this is what our daybreak lines have been looking like in soybeans of late. The market's a little bit small, but here's soybeans. Once they pick a direction, they're usually pretty good on the follow through. And you can see a lot of sideways trading there. So I'll stay with that, see if I can't nurse a few dollars out of that one. The NQ just keeps climbing. I don't think I'm going to get another chance at the NQ, quite honestly. I think I blew it this morning. If you are trading this afternoon, well, the NQ is the one to watch. There should be some profit taking going on, but if we get a serious retracement, I'm not sure we're going to get another big bounce before the end of the day. So if you're like me, you may have missed the move and you may just have to resign yourself to that. The NQ insanely strong. Crude oil looks like it's going to try to put in a rally. The current obstacle for crude oil, this high right here. But it does appear as though we might be getting a little bit stronger. So I would definitely be a little bit more bullish on crude. right, you guys, we're going to button up the room then, and I'll see you back tomorrow, Friday. Friday's session could be interesting. It's rare that we've been seeing 2 rally days in a row, and because today was such a strong session, and as you saw in the daily chart, we have some significant resistance around that 45.50 area. As the market approaches there, we could see some profit taking and maybe the market tail off a little bit as well. All right, you guys, we'll talk to you tomorrow then. Have yourselves a wonderful day. We'll talk to you soon.